Hello everyone, my name is Ryan, we're MandRproductions, and welcome to our review of the LEGO Star Wars Republic Attack Shuttle. Its set number is 8019, it was released in 2009, it included 636 pieces, 3 minifigures being Mace Windu, a Clone Wars clone pilot, and a Clone Wars regular clone trooper, and it cost $60 in the United States, so a pretty fair price for 636 pieces, a pretty solid minifigure selection, and an overall really good looking design of a ship that is very seldomly seen in the Clone Wars, I believe. Like, it was seen at the beginning of the Clone Wars movie and not very much throughout, but it's still made for an amazing LEGO set and probably will never be remade. I don't see this as something that LEGO would go back and redo, but before we get into more of my opinion on the set, let's go ahead and take a look at those figures up close. The first figure up is the Clone Wars version of Mace Windu. He also includes a purple lightsaber with kind of the duller chrome lightsaber hilt, so that's his weapon included. He has a pretty bland print in that he just has a torso print, so you don't find any print on the waist, legs, or back, so a little detractor there, unfortunately. He does have a pretty good looking face. I like the bigger eyes. It's got kind of the Clone Wars animated style looking face, or best they could do in LEGO, so I like the way the figure looks overall. I'm just a little bit disappointing in the lack of the other prints on the figure that could have definitely been there, but just were never put on here, unfortunately. So you just got a simple torso print for this guy. Let's move on. This is our Clone Wars edition of the Clone Trooper pilot, and he looks pretty solid. Of course, a lot of you guys probably recognize this figure and have seen it before, so it's nothing super special to a lot of you, I'm sure, but he does have that little yellow marking on the top. He also has some little red Republic insignias up there as well that kind of denote that he's the pilot. He's also got this nice little extra chest piece on there compared to the regular Clone Wars Clone Trooper. Got that regular face underneath. No double-sided face, so it's just a regular Clone Trooper there other than the little added markings to denote him as a pilot. Speaking of regular clone troopers, you do get one of them in the set. Looks just like this. Pretty simple design. We've all seen these Clone Wars troopers before. A very nice figure, very cool in big numbers, as many of us may be familiar with. Underneath, again, you'll find that regular clone trooper head. Got that classic Clone Wars clone trooper helmet on there with that classic torso print. No leg print, unfortunately. It was a little bit before that time. Leg prints didn't really surface on clone troopers till about 2013, 2014, so more recently. But it would have been nice to have them back in the day, but unfortunately that is left off here. And now that we've seen the figures, I do want to go through some of the exterior design choices that LEGO has made with this set. I think they've done a wonderful job, but I do want to go over a few things. You guys can see on the very top there are some blue things, and those are basically some flick-fire missiles that you're able to shoot off by using this little tab in the back. And basically, if you push this in, it's going to shoot them out of a little hole there, which you can see. That's where they're going to come out because there's a mechanism in there that pushes them. So if we push on it hard enough, it will fire out. Works really well, and the way it reloads is just basically, if we shoot another one off, you'll see that when we pull it back, it basically lets the magazine fall down another one and keeps going. It's kind of works like an M1 Grand, I want to say. Like, that's the kind of mechanism it uses. And then when it's empty, you basically pull it out, and then you reload it with more flick-fire missiles, and then you just place it back in, and it's ready to go. A very simple, yet effective design. I really like the way that works. The only thing is, it's a little bit inaccurate. Like, the real Republic Attack Shuttle would look like that. Of course, this has this little thing kind of bulging out of the top, but it still looks really good and works really well. I do like it. You can see here on like the side of the center area, they've done a good job tiling it up, using some extra pieces here to kind of get some shaping to it. The engine area does look really good as well. They use like these typical pieces that they use for like, or whatever, the wing connection, maybe not even the engines. The real engines would be found around back here. You guys can see they use basically just inverted use of blue studs there, and blue studs and some different grill pieces to kind of get a different little effect there, which I do like what they've done. These don't move anything. There's nothing else you can really do with the back here except just look at it. You can get an idea of what the landing gear is down there, which we'll get into later in the video, but it's kind of a little preview. The wings on the sides look pretty good. They have a pretty good color design to them, and if you lift them up, they kind of have the same kind of color design to it, just kind of with the bottom of the studs as opposed to the top. It does not have any yellow on the bottom though, which is a little bit weird looking. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but there is no yellow underneath, just yellow on the top there. So the front cockpit little area works really well as well. It's got big guns here on either side of it, and then it also has big guns on the cheeks of the cockpit, if you will. If you kind of catch the reference, there's kind of the cheeks of it. And it does have a transparent windshield here, so you can get your clone trooper in there, which we'll get into in a minute, but there's like nothing else in there except a couple of seats and a couple of grill pieces at the back for detail. but I found it to be an overall pretty sturdy design. Let's go ahead and put this thing into landing mode and take a look at the interior. So you guys can see here straight on, the shuttle looks pretty good. Unfortunately, though, one of my qualms with this set is that the wings do not have a stopper, so they can go all the way in like that, and that kind of looks ugly. So you kind of have to find a balance in here somewhere to get them to look decent, as opposed to all the way in or maybe a little bit out. Like, it just doesn't look good like that. You gotta find that balance area that looks the best to you personally. I personally don't like it when they're all the way in. I try to keep them out a little bit. I think it looks better than all the way in, but maybe all the way in is the way to go. I don't know. It's going to be personal preference for you. Again, the landing gear on the bottom is just a couple of those white pieces, which we also saw used on the Imperial dropship a couple years back in reference to when this was released. It would have been 2007, 2 years before this. It's the same type of landing gear. You'll find not much else going on under there besides a couple of little openings for bombs, which we'll get to after we open it up. But we do want to show off this little cockpit area. And that's where you're going to be able to fit both of your clone troopers. You can go ahead and drop your regular clone trooper in the back seat if you want, and then you can take your Clone Wars clone trooper and sit him up in the front seat. There's no control panel or anything. This is completely blank, so it's just kind of a blank white piece there. Unfortunately, they didn't throw in like a tile with a little control piece, which would have been nice. I mean, usually LEGO is pretty good about that, but for some reason they just opted not to do so here. And obviously this is a little bit size inaccurate, very size inaccurate actually, with what I remember from watching in the Clone Wars is accurate, and this thing was much bigger. Like, you were able to fit like multiple figures in the front. I don't know. So having broken into the interior here, you can get a much better idea of what we have going on. It's actually pretty rough looking. Like, it's not very finished off really. You just kind of get a seat with no little control panel or anything, and that's where you're going to put Mace Windu. Actually, that is his seat, so you can sit him in there very nicely. And unfortunately, again, there's nothing really for him to do there besides sit there. You can take his lightsaber if you want and clip it into either side of this little module here, so we'll just drop it in the clip there, and then you can take the two clone guns and stick them into the little open studs there. So that's kind of where you can store the weapons for this set, and that's about all you can do in the back section here. You can also reload the bombs that you're going to be able to drop out of the bottom here by pulling this up and basically putting them back in when they're empty. Unfortunately, of course, they are not empty right now, so we can't really reload them, but if they're empty, and then they have this little separator basically that keeps them separate between bombings. So if you want to close it back up, it's very simple. You just let it drop down, and then you're going to clip in these pieces with the yellow bits on the end and the bottom there. So works pretty simple, and it basically allows you to pick the whole thing up now that it's clipped in. So very nice. If we go ahead and fold these wings back up, we'll go ahead and flip it back around and show you how those bombs work. Alright, so I was kind of lying earlier when I said there was nothing else you could do around back. You can, of course, go ahead and drop those bombs that we saw in the interior out of back. Basically, all you have to do is push up on these old Technic pieces, and it's going to drop the bomb out. And mine seems to become a bit finicky with the age it is for some reason. It doesn't seem to work every time very reliably. But I know that in the past it definitely used to work there. The other one drops out, and we'll try it from the other side. But it's definitely with age become a little bit more finicky. It used to work just fine. Now it seems to be a little bit tougher to get to work correctly for some reason. But it does still work as intended for the most part. It's just unfortunate that with age, such a good feature seems to have been diminished. But the flickfire missile feature on the top, I think, makes up for that. These I don't really ever use as much. But still, they're kind of really colorful and weird looking. I don't really understand why they're so colorful. Maybe it's accurate to the Clone Wars, but they're just very colorful little bombs to be dropping out of your Republic Attack Shuttle. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Aside from my particular model seeming to have lost some luster over the last few years, especially with that bomb feature not seeming to work as well as it once did, this is still a wonderful LEGO Star Wars set. If you love the Clone Wars, if you love this particular ship design, if you love shuttles from Star Wars, you know, this is a wonderful one to add to your collection. I would certainly recommend going on eBay, Bricklink, checking out the prices, and trying to find a fair price for it. If you're into it, I say go ahead and get it. This is a wonderful LEGO Star Wars Clone Wars model. It's got a solid minifigure selection. You're not getting anything great. You're not getting anything you can't really get elsewhere. I mean, even Mace Windu has come out in a very recent set in the General Grievous speeder bike, so you can get him too with an updated model. I just don't feel like the minifigures are a draw for the set, but I feel like the biggest draw for the set obviously is the huge ship, and the coloration on it just looks so good. I love it. I love this Clone Wars design. It would go great next to a Venator if you have that in your collection. I mean, this is just a wonderful display piece. It's also very playable. We can do a lot with it, so it's something I would definitely recommend. It gave it like a 9 out of a 10, honestly. Like, this is just something that I absolutely love and adore. more. It's one of the more nostalgic sets I have in my collection for sure. So if you guys did enjoy this little review, go ahead and give it a like. If you have any questions for me, if you just have any comments about this set, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. I'll be reading through it and replying to you guys if you have any big questions on things I may not have covered in this review, although I think I covered it all. So hopefully I did a good job. If I did, go ahead and again leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. Check out one of these two videos if you haven't seen them yet, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.